Hi, my name is Roy Furr. I'm the advisor CMO. And today I want to address what could be the biggest problem in financial advisor marketing and what you can do about it. If you're like most advisors, your single biggest roadblock to growth and hitting your goals is consistently attracting the right kind of clients. And if you just had a consistent source of high quality leads, it would change everything. Business would be so much easier. I want to say you're not alone. And it's not your fault. The reality is that this is getting harder, and it's not just me saying that. There was a Kitces report study that said marketing costs have gone up over 50% in half a decade. Even if you're not spending money on advertising, you're spending time, and time is money. Labor costs, the soft costs of marketing, are a hidden expense that drive over 70% of marketing spend. All of this while results are going down. It's getting harder and harder to get consistent leads and new clients. Client acquisition cost across the board, across the industry, is up 75% in the last few years. And marketing efficiency ratio, which could be the best thing to calculate for your financial advisory, which, by the way, is your total new client revenue divided by your marketing costs. Marketing efficiency ratio is dropping. The average advisor is spending $1 today to get 60 cents in first year new client revenue. Spending $1, getting 60 cents back this year. Now, it's still better than M&A, but you're not breaking even until year 2. We look at all these numbers, and the reality is that customer acquisition may be the biggest unsolved problem for not just your financial advisory, but for financial advisors across the board. So today, I'm going to show you how to solve this. I'm going to share the root of the problem and how you can overcome it. Now, just for a little bit of background about me, last year I helped advisors do over $2 billion in production. I worked through an agency who contracted with me as a secret weapon to help their clients. Our best clients saw 30% year-over-year growth. We generated thousands of leads, wildly successful. I've consulted on financial advisor marketing since 2018. I was brought in as an outside marketing expert, basically copy pasting proven strategies from outside of the financial advisory world into the financial advisory world and creating some big breakthroughs. I've been doing direct response marketing to investors since 2010 and just really focusing on the universal principles of what drives response. I've got over 2 decades of total marketing, advertising, and consultative selling experience, and I know it works. Unfortunately, a lot of what used to work, not just for financial advisors, but everybody, doesn't work nearly as well anymore. And that's because the rules are changing and you need a new approach to go with the new rules. Now, what do I mean there? Let me get really specific. Consumer behavior, the way that we consume, the way that we make our buying decisions is changing. It has changed significantly since, let's say, the turn of the century. There was some Google research that came out recently, and it was looking at search and shopping behavior. And Google knows what people search for, what they do after they search, and then what they go on and buy. In fact, Google once admitted that they have over 70 million data points on each of us. And that's this entire process that we go through online. They understand how we are behaving. And what this Google research found was that advertising doesn't work like it used to before the internet. So how did it used to work the old way when we didn't have access to all the world's information in the palm of our hand? The way that it used to work is there would be a stimulus, the advertisement, the marketing, whatever the connection was. Maybe it was a one-on-one connection. Maybe it was word of mouth, whatever it was, right? There was the stimulus that led to the response, which is the active buying process. Open up the yellow pages, give you a call, maybe even look you up in the early days of the internet, and it turned into an active buying process. And then there was a reward. That was the reward for you and the reward for them. They became a client. They got the benefit of your services. Well, that's not quite how it works. It's not just stimulus, response, reward today. The new way in this world of infinite information abundance is that after that stimulus, people move into an evaluation process. Now, there are some people who can get a stimulus and then respond right away. And that does still happen. But for every one of those people, there could be 10 or 100 people that still need to go into this evaluation process. So what is evaluation? That's when people start to do active or passive research. Active research is they're actually searching for information about a particular problem that they want to solve or benefit or whatever, right? Passive research is that the algorithm starts feeding them news stories and starts feeding them information and starts having things show up in their social media feed and feeds them advertisements about the things that they're interested in. They may look into reviews, into rating sites, into product or service comparisons. They may start to compare you with the people down the street or with other options for getting the kind of financial advice that can help them. There's community. They may reach out to people, groups, online groups in person. It's an active evaluation process here. They may ask people for word of mouth. They may start consuming content from you or from other people in the space who the algorithms are feeding that content to them from. The thing is, during this evaluation process, what is happening is they are building trust. They're building trust in their understanding of the problem, and they're building trust in their understanding of what the solution needs to be and whether that solution is your solution or someone else's. And when they get to the end of that evaluation process, that's when they can move to response and reward, right? That's when they can go into the active buying process and become a client. And then afterwards, one more thing that happens is that there is market feedback being created, that they post reviews, that they create content, that they're feeding back into that evaluation process of the next person and the next person and the next person. And what can you do with this? Well, Google actually came up with something that's now been called the 7-11-4 rule. And this is how you help someone move through that evaluation process. Somebody will make a buying decision after, on average, they've consumed 7 hours of content. They've engaged in the evaluation process for 7 hours across 11 separate touch points. So it could be a video, it could be an email, it could be a web page that they read, it could be having a conversation, whatever, in 4 separate locations. Now that can be social media, it can be your website, it can be their email inbox, it can be lots of different places. It can be the conversations that they end up having with you or your team. But it's 7 hours of engagement across 11 touch points in 4 locations. And today's landscape is changing because of this, because this is the new consumer behavior. This isn't like a rule that you need to follow because somebody said so. This is on average, that's how consumers are going to behave. Some are going to need less hours of engagement, less touch points, less locations, maybe because they're already in the buying decision, and some will need more because they're more hesitant to make that buying decision. So today's landscape is changing. The old way was just to put yourself out there and clients would come. But today you need a better strategy. You need better systems if you want to succeed. You need to actually actively foster this process of educating prospective clients and helping them evaluate, helping them make that buying decision. You need a system that is designed to capture leads when they're ready, like when they're ready to respond, the system needs to be there. And as they come in as leads, it needs to effectively convert those qualified leads to clients. But in order to drive people into the system, you need to use educational marketing to actively attract and nurture those leads based on how they behave today, based on that 7-11-4 rule. You need a system that's built for multi-touch, multi-channel, multimedia buying processes that people are going through today. And when you do this right, when you build your system in this way, you actually have a lot of power behind you, because when you build a system that is designed to work with the AI algorithms that are helping people discover the right content at the right time based on what their interests are, you're actually tapping into, well, Facebook made an announcement that this year that they're investing $65 billion in AI to put the right message in front of the right people at the right time so that they stay engaged. Google or Alphabet, they announced $85 billion in CapEx driven by AI competition. And so you're leveraging the AI that's being created. You're leveraging the algorithms that drive what content we see at what time on the internet in order to attract the right clients to you. And so you can't just think about an ad or a piece of marketing or an event or whatever the stimulus is that you're trying to put in front of them, you have to think in terms of entire campaigns, systems that are driving the buying process. And it needs to be created to tap into this new consumer reality that we need 7 hours of engagement across 11 touch points in 4 separate locations in order for us to make a buying decision. So I want to show you something. This is the Daily New Client System. It's an approach that I built for financial advisors who are ready for a consistent, scalable source of new clients without the exhaustion of manual prospecting. And I want to give you a quick breakdown of how it works. Now, I start at the bottom. I always start at the bottom because you don't want to pour water into a leaky bucket. If you're going to pour the water in, you want the bucket to be able to catch it, right? And this is the opposite of what most people do when they think about advertising. They start at the top with the media. So it used to be radio, TV. Now it's Google, Meta, YouTube, podcasting, blogging, other channels, whatever. They start at the top, but I do the opposite. And that's how I get much more powerful results. The problem is if you're really good at that stimulus advertising, radio, TV, Google, Meta, whatever, if you're able to get people to call in, to respond, to fill out a form online, whatever, if you didn't start at the bottom, if you don't have the conversion system right, it just leads to filling a broken system with good leads, good attention, and good marketing dollars that end up going nowhere. And you wonder why profitability is so bad across the industry and, frankly, looking out into the world. And so if you want to convert leads into clients, you need to start at the bottom. You need an effective conversion system. So I start at the bottom with what I call my core conversion system. Now, it starts with basically making the right offer. But an offer isn't just an offer. It's who you're speaking with, right? Knowing who your ideal client is and being crystal clear about that. So when you're speaking to them, they say, yeah, that's me. What benefits you can offer them or what pain you help them avoid, or really it's usually a combination of both, right? So they say, oh, yes, I got to avoid that pain, or I want that benefit, right? And then what micro offer gets them to raise their hand. Now, this isn't like become a client, and it's not just call me, right? Going back to 2018, I looked across what different financial advisors were doing with their marketing, with their advertising, and I said, your offers suck. Sorry, they do. And this was the first thing that I did differently than just about every other financial advisor out there, and it's the foundation of the success that I've continued to build to today. And now I have proven messaging, proven offers. I know what works to get people to raise their hand and start talking to a financial advisor. And this is how you get them to raise their hand, the right prospects, how to start the relationship, not just in a way that gets them responding and talking to you, but in a way that establishes massive value in working with you and makes them be naturally pulled into the idea of, I want to become this person's client. And then not just the offer, the entire conversion system. It's still part of this core conversion process. So I can share how to get them to book a discovery call, how you can use the discovery call to create better prospects and position yourself as the expert they want to follow, starting with coming in and meeting with you. And then the 2-appointment close process that underscores the benefit you provide, the problem you solve, and then creates an even bigger need that can only be fulfilled by becoming a client. Now, if that sounds a little obscure or whatever, it makes complete sense when I break it all down for you. I just don't have space to cover it here. And then when you get to that second appointment, how to turn the maximum number of qualified prospects into onboarding clients by the end of that second appointment, and how and when to follow up throughout all of these different appointments. You're probably doing a lot of these things already, but when I've looked across what different financial advisors are doing, there's a lot of room for improvement. And the more effective you are at converting every lead that comes in the door, the more profitable all your marketing, all your advertising dollars become. And if you don't think this is a big deal, think again. One client that I worked with had onboarded well over $1 billion in assets, and every marketing response that they were getting was creating a game of chase between that response, like that person first responding and actually talking to a member of their team. They had members of their team, advisors and appointment setters, chasing them down. I was able to identify this, fix the process, and 80% of their marketing responses turned into booked discovery calls. No chasing, just 80% of people waiting by the phone saying, I was waiting for your call. In another case, I identified that an advisor had the chief compliance officer doing discovery calls, and they actually had not a very good sales process. And unfortunately, I didn't discover that until $60,000 in advertising was nearly all wasted before I said, no, you got to fix that. Easily, 80% of your advertising profitability could be decided outside of your ads. Now, like I said earlier, I worked in direct response marketing for a long time, and there's an old rule called the 40-40-20 rule. And basically what this says is that 40% of your response to whatever marketing is determined by putting that marketing in front of the right audience. 40% is making the right offer. And then the last 20% of that response is dictated by what you actually put in the advertising itself. And so speaking to the right audience, making the right offer in the right way that establishes an effective conversion process, that's 80% of the success. And then you get to the 20% of, driving the traffic and bringing them in, what you're actually going to say when you first put that stimulus out in the marketplace. So working up from the core conversion system, I help clients build a client magnet. This is how you get people to raise their hand. And this strategy on a strategic level, it's the same strategy that Ken Fisher's team used to build Fisher Investments to a $300 billion AUM firm, built $13 billion in enterprise value, and led to a $3 billion personal windfall for Ken himself. But updated for today, I really respect Fisher Investments. They do a lot of things right, but they've barely innovated in more than 10 years. And so I build client magnets for what's working today, how to engage with prospects faster, more powerfully, how to skim the cream for the hottest prospects, those closest to becoming a client, and how to effectively put that out into the marketplace to get people to respond. Plus, when you do this right, you're actually building a database of evaluators, the people who are doing the research and that are likely to change financial advisors within the next 90 days, 18 months, somewhere in there, right? These people who are actively going through that process so you can start to communicate with them. So when you have these two things, you have a powerful conversion system in place. First, that core conversion system that turns qualified, motivated prospects into clients. And then the client magnet that attracts qualified prospects, plus skims the cream for those most likely to become clients now. And if we look back at that Google model, where it's stimulus, evaluate, response, and reward, what we've done so far is cover the response and the reward, how you turn evaluators into responders and clients, right? Then you need to use one or more of the three main traffic types to attract clients and guide them into your conversion system. So these should sound familiar to you. Free organic content. You have the system in place to convert them. How can you put free content out in the marketplace such that people engage with it and they come and they enter your conversion system and ultimately become a client? How can you effectively do paid advertising today that reaches out and brings people in the door? And then database marketing. The more people that have responded to you in the past, the bigger free media channel that you have, you own that. You can reach out to those people. You can put more marketing in front of them for almost no incremental cost. And this can be a huge, huge profit source for your business. In fact, the right kind of database marketing campaigns are the second most profitable client source behind referrals for good marketers who are financial advisors. But you get all three of these: organic content, paid advertising, and database marketing, driving traffic toward your client magnet, toward your core conversion system. And this is how you start to get people booking discovery calls with you, potentially every day of the week, if not more often. The key, though, is with all three, you need to be strategic, not just making content, not just doing ads, not just doing database marketing. That's not enough. It's about creating those messages that attract the right kind of prospect. So you need to understand the structure of effective advertising messages. This is what I've been known for. I've gained international recognition for it over the last 2 decades, and it's what financial advisors started coming to me for in 2018. You have to understand what works to get attention and to drive response, not just any leads, but drive response from leads that are pre-educated, pre-motivated, pre-qualified, specifically to do business with you. They're a good fit for your services. They see you as unique and differentiated, and they're choosing you over other options. So this starts with giving them a reason to pay attention and then helping them evaluate to make their buying decision. So this is Google's 7-11-4 rule in action. But it's about structuring your advertising to give them a set of buying criteria that will favor doing business with you, becoming a client of your firm, while also building up your authority status in their eyes and guiding them into your conversion system. It's easier than you think. I have a 6-step advertising formula that makes these messages really easy to create. And when you do it right, the effect can be powerful. It's like turning on a faucet, a steady flow of new clients coming into your business, into your conversion system. Your content, your ads, your database marketing are all attracting the right qualified prospects. The client magnet gets them to raise their hand, say, I'm interested, to become a lead. And then that core conversion system helps get them over the goal line, making their own personal decision after their evaluation to respond, to become your client. And the result can be 10, 20, 30, 50, or even 100 or more new prospects every month, scheduling discovery calls with your team, qualified prospects, motivated prospects, educated prospects who are choosing to pursue you becoming their financial advisor. And so that's why I call this the daily new client system. Depending on your investment of time, energy, marketing capital, all of that, you could end up with new discovery calls getting booked on your calendar every single day. And you don't even necessarily have to use all 3 traffic sources. If you really commit to doing either organic content or paid advertising really well, you can use either one to generate all the new leads that you can handle. And database marketing should really just be a no-brainer. It's like having your own media channel or traffic source that you own, that you control. It costs almost nothing to speak to better leads. These are better leads. And if you have a decent pool of past prospects that are already in your database, even just database marketing could drive instant results. Well, near instant, right? As soon as you start doing it, to recoup your investment in setting up this system. In fact, when I work with clients to set this up, I have a fast start module that I share up front, because the faster you get results, the easier it is to keep going. FAST stands for first appointment set today. And the goal is within 7 days, you could already be doing discovery calls with high probability prospects. It's the fastest, easiest way I know to bring in new clients, leveraging assets that you already have in your business. And if you have as little as a few hundred past prospects and their contact information, this can be crazy effective. What you're doing basically is you're finding those people who were evaluators before, but with the right message, the right offer, are ready to become responders now. And my goal is to get you results fast and then keep building a powerful system to keep getting results, the daily new client system. And so I actually put together an accelerator program for financial advisors. And here's how it works. I work with you and your team over the next 12 or so weeks as you install the daily new client system into your business. If you're doing this and you're doing it right, you can expect to spend about 8 hours per week building this out, using the instructions, the templates, the scripts, the content that I'm giving you. You'll get new action-focused content and assignments every week for the first 8 weeks, ongoing support, Q&A sessions, feedback over the full 12 weeks, all focused on implementation, focused on the result being you have a fully built out daily new client system. You'll have the core conversion system. You'll have the client magnet. You'll have your traffic sources nailed down, organic content, paid advertising, database marketing. And with that fast start module, you could even be having your first discovery calls within the first week. And within just a few weeks, you could be growing that consistent flow of ideal new prospective clients into your business. I'm not new to all of this. As I said, I've been doing results accountable marketing since 2005. I've helped financial advisors get clients since 2018. And last year, the advisors I worked with generated thousands of leads and did over $2 billion in total production. But because this daily new clients system accelerator program is new, you may notice I'm not giving you any case studies, but I want to offer you one better. I want you to be the case study. I want to give you the opportunity to try it, to prove it to yourself before you put any serious money into the program. The accelerator program itself is $15,000 spread across 3 monthly payments. And if you're going to do paid advertising, you should expect to spend a total of $30,000 to $50,000 to really get that program ramped up and generating consistent results. And frankly, this is worth many times that, because I'm not giving you a fish or teaching you to fish. I'm helping you build a fish farm that can feed you and your entire team from here forward. But if we have a chat and I approve you to enroll in the accelerator program, all that I'm going to ask from you is a $1 deposit for you to dive in for your first month. Put it to the test. Start getting into the weekly content, the Fast Start module, building your core conversion system, creating your client magnet, even starting to drive traffic. And within that first month, if you decide to cancel for any reason, you don't pay. I'll even refund your $1 deposit if you really want. I know what I do works. I clearly believe in it if I'm willing to make an offer like this. But without a bunch of case studies, as I'm launching this new accelerator program, I understand it can be hard to trust. And so I wanted to do something that just goes over the top and shows you exactly what you're getting, gives you the opportunity to get results before you're making any serious investment. Now, I don't know how long it's going to last. In the future, I may ask that you put down the first payment or even the full fee before you can enroll. But if you're seeing this video and you ask me for the $1 offer, and if I approve you to join the accelerator program, I am going to have to approve you. You can enroll in the next cohort and let your results be the proof you need for just a $1 deposit. I do have an application process because, again, I'm putting myself out there with this offer. I only want to work with those advisors who I believe are most likely to achieve wild success in the accelerator program. I want to know you're a fit before I accept you. And listen, I can't promise this is going to be easy. There's a good amount of work that's front loaded. But if you want the results, you got to be willing to do the work. And so if you're serious about this, if you want a client attraction and conversion system built for today based on the new reality of how people buy and that's grounded in effective marketing principles, proven through over $2 billion in annual production with financial advisors, I encourage you to apply. Fill out the quick application with this video. It should take less than 10 minutes. And one of two things is going to happen. One, your application will be instantly approved. You'll be able to book a Q&A call. We can have a chat, see if you're a fit. Or two, your application goes into manual review and I'll reach out with the next steps, depending on what I see there. So just go ahead, complete that application today, right now, while you're here. And just imagine the sense of relief that you could feel. That number one roadblock to hitting your goals, to growing your advisory, your challenges with bringing in new qualified clients, just cleared away, solved. When I've worked with clients in the past, they've run into a new problem from demand constraint, not having enough clients, to supply constraint. They're needing to grow their team to handle additional leads, putting a pause on the advertising so that they can catch up with all the leads coming in. And, frankly, it's a much better problem to have. When you choose to be an entrepreneur, though, to grow your financial advisory, you're choosing a path where you'd have to solve one problem after another. That's just how business works. Getting new clients consistently is probably the biggest problem that you're ever going to need to solve if you're like most businesses and most financial advisors. And that's why this can also be the biggest relief when you have a truly effective solution system in place for bringing new clients in the door. If that makes sense to you, I would really encourage you. But either way, nothing's going to happen until you decide something's got to change about what we're doing right now and the results that we're getting. It's up to you. It's up to you to make it happen. I can give you the daily new client system on a silver platter, but it's up to you to make sure that it gets implemented. And the time to do that is now. And if that's where you're at, fill out that application. I look forward to chatting with you on our Q&A call. And if we both decide you're a fit here, a $1 deposit is going to be all it takes to get started building your daily new client system. So look forward to talking to you soon.